Does the F-16 aid provided to Ukraine by the US and the West affect Russia's special military campaign? Attack Falcon. What is F-16? The US F-16 is a multi-role fighter aircraft fourth system. Due to their lightness and good maneuverability, they are called Fighting Falcon, roughly translated as Attacking Falcon. Fighter aircraft of this type are the core of the US Air Force in Western countries. They have been in use since 1978. This type of aircraft is relatively cheap and easy to maintain. In the West, the F-16 is considered the best among similar aircraft. It has a powerful engine and a good traction-to-weight ratio. Main technical characteristics of the F-16. Cabin, 1 pilot. Maximum speed, 2,145 km per hour. Flight range, 4,000 km. Weapons. Air-to-air missile. Air-to-ground missile. 6-barreled 20mm cannon with 511 bullets. Bomb, adjustable cluster, free fall. Limitations. The main limitation of the F-16 is that the aircraft has only one engine. Just being hit by a missile, even a small capacity one, or an element of enemy firepower will cause the aircraft to be considered incapacitated. The pilot was forced to eject from the plane. In addition, the speed of the American Attack Falcon is significantly inferior to modern twin-engine fighters. F-16 is important to Ukraine. Kiev needs F-16 fighters to establish at least relative balance in the air. The Russian Air Force currently has an almost complete advantage in the conflict. And this does not allow the Ukrainian armed forces to carry out a sustained counterattack. President Zelensky's emphasis on the F-16 is clearly suggested by both Ukrainian and Western military advisors. The American Attack Falcon has a combat flight radius, depending on refueling and payload weight, of up to 1,700 kilometers, and the distance from the Polish border to Ukraine's Donetsk is about 1,000 kilometers. According to the latest data, the Dutch Air Force has more than 50 F-16s ready to fight. Denmark also has a similar number. Together they will hand over 50 F-16s to Kiev. In return, the US pledged to provide them with new F-35s, the next generation aircraft. However, the supply of F-16s to Kiev will likely be done in small batches. NATO probably also understood that sending 50 fighter jets to Ukraine simultaneously would lead to the fact that they could all be destroyed by Russian anti-aircraft missiles. So they will supply them in small doses, about 10 to 12 units, and disperse them at several military airports. The possibility of other NATO countries transferring more F-16s to Ukraine is also quite high. Especially considering that other types of combat aircraft, mainly still Soviet, have been supplied to Ukraine for a long time. Does Ukraine have F-16 pilots? How much time does it take to train? Ukraine also has military pilots trained to operate fighter aircraft. But their professional skill levels are very different. There are people who have participated in combat, and there are also new soldiers who have never experienced combat. About 40 of them are currently undergoing F-16 training at Luke Air Force Base, Arizona. If America wants to train them well, it will take more than a year. First, it takes 350 hours of theory, then 60 hours of training on a simulator, then training on how to use weapons on an airplane, 20 hours, and finally a simulation of a real battle. American instructors complain that Ukrainian pilots have difficulty with English. This is why the training program is delayed. And American advisors also admit that even after a year of training, Ukrainian F-16 pilots are still inexperienced. To become a professional pilot, it does not take just 50 hours but at least 150 to 200 hours of flying with performing missions close to real combat situations. Therefore, it is not excluded that well-trained American, Polish, Danish and Dutch pilots will work side by side with Ukrainian pilots. In addition, the US press also published information that pilots of US private aviation companies, such as Airborne Tactical Advantage Company or Draken International, who have experience flying this type of aircraft, can fly it. Flying together on the F-16. But there is also an opinion that Europe and the United States will not send their experienced pilots to the skies of Ukraine, where they will have to face not only Russian air defense systems, but also Russian pilots. Russian soldiers are experienced, have an incredible number of sorties, and many of them have also experienced military campaigns in Syria. Where can these F-16s be parked? Russian military experts believe that airfields serving as bases for such aircraft will be located in Poland, Romania, or Slovakia. Because, the closer to the battlefield, the better. In addition, all these airports have long been covered with air defense systems. Of course, some F-16 parts will be hidden in camouflaged hangars at Ukrainian airports. Does Russia have any way to neutralize this threat? First of all, the option of attacking with missiles and bombs on airports in Poland, Romania, or Slovakia, where F-16s can be stationed, must be immediately eliminated. Because NATO will immediately consider such attacks as an attack on the bloc and will have grounds to attack Russia. The first method is that Russian fighters need to immediately confront the vultures in the air on the border with Ukraine. That means a barrier must be set up immediately. There is another way. Russia will have to capture enemy aircraft under the guns of its S-300, S-400, S-500, S-350 air defense systems. And, on other lines, complexes Tor, Buk, OSA, Pantsir, and other mobile air defense missile systems must be put into operation. How will the appearance of the F-16 affect the progress of the special military operation? Of course, the more F-16s there are in the skies over Ukraine, the more Russia will have to use its air defense systems and fighter jets. This will be a serious air confrontation that Russia needs to prepare for now. The recent entry into service of Russia's latest fighter jets and air defense systems with the Russian aerospace forces is a sign that Russia is prepared. American F-16 and Russian MiG-31 confront in the sky of Ukraine. During its operation, the Russian aircraft underwent many modifications, causing its combat quality to change completely. Currently, the Russian aerospace forces have more than 500 MiG-31s. The MiG-31 fighter has a 6-barrel 23mm gun that is more powerful than the F-16's 20mm gun. However, American fighter aircraft have 1.5 times more ammunition than Russian aircraft. The US F-16 is only equipped with short and medium-range air-to-air missiles capable of hitting targets at a distance of 100 kilometers, while the Russian MiG-31 has 4 long-range R-60M guided missiles. The F-16 has a modest maximum supersonic speed of 2,178 km per hour at an altitude of 12,200 meters, unlike the MiG-31 which can reach a speed of 3,600 km per hour with a flight ceiling of 21,500 meters. The actual ceiling height of the F-16 is 15,240 meters. Russia's MiG-31 has a combat radius, two-way, of 720 kilometers, without auxiliary fuel tanks, while the F-16, with the Block 50 modification or higher, can fly 1,565 kilometers with auxiliary fuel tanks. The actual flight range, one-way, of the F-16 is 4,472 kilometers with auxiliary fuel tanks, while the MiG-31 with auxiliary fuel tanks is 3,000 kilometers. However, Russian fighter jets can refuel in the air, increasing their operating range to 5,000 kilometers. New modifications of the MiG-31 are equipped with Kinzhal, air-to-ground, airship missiles with a range of more than 2,000 kilometers, while the F-16 is only equipped with AGM-65 Maverick tactical air-to-ground missiles with a range of 30 kilometers. NATO fighters also have low speed compared to another Russian fighter, the Su-27. Such modest speeds make it very unlikely that they will collide in the sky with the Russian aerospace forces. And besides, the fact that the F-16 is not equipped with long-range air-to-air missiles makes it unable to hit targets at long distances. MiG-31 fighter combined with Vimpel are long-range air-to-air missiles. 37M of the Russian Air Force will challenge the presence of F-16 fighter jets in the skies of Ukraine. The Russian Air Force may not have won an overwhelming victory in the air war in Ukraine, but they still maintain very significant pressure, even though Kiev is actively backed and supported by NATO. However, Russia has at least one big advantage in the air, which is the dual sword between the MiG-31 interceptor and the R-37M long-range missile. Since October 2022, MiG-31 aircraft, equipped with R-37M air-to-air missiles, have become the main threat to Ukrainian fighters. MiG-31 is believed to be the culprit who shot down a number of Ukrainian aircraft, mainly with this super long-range missile. In August 2023, a Russian MiG-31 equipped with R-37 missiles worried the Norwegian P-8A Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft, forcing it to turn back. In December 2023, a Ukrainian MiG-29 fighter jet was shot down by an R-37M long-range air-to-air missile launched from a MiG-31. Ukrainian pilots are hoping that the F-16 fighter jets that will soon be provided by the West, if equipped with AIM-120 long-range air-to-air missiles, will be able to control the MiG-31. In addition, target information from ground radar systems can be received by the MiG-31 and transmitted to other aircraft, thus allowing silent attacks without the need to turn on the radar. Pilots can choose to destroy targets based on input from other aircraft, via data links. A formation of 4 MiG-31s, using data links, can patrol a 900 km front. The combination of the aircraft's radar and weapons can intercept low-altitude cruise missiles and other flying objects. In addition, it also serves as an air defense escort for long-range strategic bombers. How dangerous is the R-37M missile? The R-37 missile was researched and produced by the Soviet Union in the 1980s. The latest variant is the R-37M was developed by Russia, weighs 500 kilograms, 60 kilograms warhead, was put into use in 2019, and can hit targets at a distance of 150 to 400 kilometers, making it an air-to-air missile. Has the longest range in the world. To prevent R-37M missiles from hitting, Ukrainian pilots developed an evasive maneuver called cross-flight. However, they could not easily fight back against the MiG-31s that launched missiles. Currently, the air-to-air missile with the longest range in Ukraine's arsenal is still the R-27ER missile from the Soviet era, with a maximum range of 100 kilometers in ideal conditions. Because of concerns about the combination of MiG-31 and R-37M, Ukraine had to find a way to destroy MiG-31 while they were still on the ground through a UAV attack on Belbek Air Base in Crimea. In August 2022, when 4 MiG-31s were deployed here. F-16s equipped with AIM-120 air-to-air missiles, an early missile, suitable for fighter jets that the West plans to aid Ukraine, will still have a disadvantage in terms of range compared to MiGs. -31 equipped with R-37M missiles. Ukraine's F-16s will not dare to fly close to the front line, to push the MiG-31 deeper into Russian territory, so it will be difficult for them to complete their mission of preventing Russian Su-34 bombers from dropping bombs, hovering over the front line area. Therefore, according to Marshal of the Indian Air Force, General Anil Chopra, the F-16s that the West provided here cannot help Ukraine regain its air superiority.